Emotional Triggers. This is episode 160 on Alternative Health Tools podcast, where together we discover alternative health tools and explore integrative healing philosophies for both individuals and practitioners.
Hi everyone, this is Angie, your co-host for Alternative Health Tools, where together we discover alternative health tools and explore integrative healing philosophies for both individuals and practitioners.
Woohoo! And I'm Lisa Victoria, your other co-host from across the pond, and together we make an awesome team of bringing practitioners and other amazing people onto the show to share all those wonderful things that Angie's just talked about with you guys. And today we're talking about emotional triggers.
Ding, 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 ding. So it's all about who is your driver, right? So Lisa and I were planning, and stay tuned, it's Heal the Healer coming up soon, a series. But we were talking about emotional triggers around holidays or around significant events, around certain dates the same way every year. And we're just talking about how folks just don't believe they can be healed from that, right? They think it's just the way it is, but there's methods to what is driving you, whether it's an emotional trigger with an accident, incident, occasion, or as we were talking about, your goals, right? What's driving you to the goals? Is it a healthy driver?
Yeah, and who's in the driving seat, you or somebody else? And if it's not you, who is that other person?
Exactly.
Is it past voices from the mother or past voices from school? Or
right, and it's really finding that, if we all have a story, I'm no different, right? I didn't come on without this breezy, easy way of life over 50 years now.
I love that, breezy, easy.
Yeah, we wish.
If only life was that simple.
Exactly. But the reality is we've all signed up for soul expansion and growth, and everything we experience is to expand us and to grow us. And, my journey is no different than anyone else. I was in corporate America for over 20 years, and I was driven by performance because my self-worth was tied to that performance and that accolades and that acknowledgement for being number one or being a high performer in corporate America. Eventually my body said, yeah, chick, that's not going to work. And then I had my first autoimmune diagnosis, right? And that's what happens. And it brings you to your knees. And then you start going, okay, what's happening here? And I know you had something very similar.
Totally. Everything you say just resonates with me. And I was in corporate UK and I was an accountant and I was driven. So I was the passenger of my life because I was driven. I wasn't in the driver's seat. And I was driven by all those things that you talk about, wanting to be successful, wanting to climb the career ladder. And it was at the expense of my health, my well-being. And I wasn't aware of those emotional triggers at the time. And then my body went, stop, girl. If you're not going to stop, we'll stop you in your tracks. And I got chronic fatigue syndrome. And that was part of my journey. And love what you said, Angie, about, it's a journey, isn't it? And these things are coming up for us to be able to heal them. And that's what we're talking about today.
It is. And I'm going to encourage all the listeners to understand that you can heal those, but the first thing is you have to acknowledge they're coming up to be healed, right? Yes. And we've pushed as a generation, as a human species, as a race, we have pushed these emotions back, right? Big boys don't cry. The girls have now taken on masculine, and now we're masculine and men are feminine, and we have all this confusion of roles. And this isn't a political comment. This is an emotional comment. So yes. For everyone to whatever I just triggered in you, I want you to acknowledge that. But really, it's about understanding that person you don't like, that you've never really talked to, they just walked into the room. That's an internal emotional trigger, right? Yes. That's something that's not been healed. That experience that seems to happen every September 18th every year, again, is a trauma that was never healed. And we could even go deeper, right, Lisa? For those that believe in past lives, those that believe in generational and ancestral impact, we are being called, in my professional opinion and experience, we're being called right now to take that generational trauma that we've ignored, that's been swept up underneath the rug, years and years and generations of molestation and generations of deceit and lies and all this I just triggered on everyone. We're being asked to heal that. right now.
And it's wonderful, isn't it? The world's waking up to healing. I love what you've said there, and thinking about that generational stuff. We've always been taught to just pull your socks up, just get on with it, be the strong one, be the tough one. There's people worse off than you in the world, so bury those emotions, don't acknowledge them, don't heal them. And actually that's part of our journey and our evolution, isn't it? We're human beings, we're meant to feel, we're not human doings, and we talked about that, didn't we, off air? And I think if any of our listeners are out there thinking, yes, I do get emotionally triggered, that's okay. Just know it's okay. Just notice what's showing up for you, and then we can heal those things.
It's so true. And I want to give some tips on how to heal that, right?
Yeah.
So we go back to, who's your driver? Who's your driver in your life, whether that is a career, whether that is something you're being or something you're becoming. I said earlier, which I guarantee was a trigger to many people because it tends to be, about the males becoming feminine and the feminine becoming male. And we're at a crossroads. We're really aligning both feminine and male energy, right? We need that. We totally need that. And it's not a judgment call. It's an internal call. So where in our life are we lacking either one of those? It is a balance. We have for so many years been very male driven, male energy driven. I won't say male, that's not the right words, but the energy, right? That masculine energy. And now we're bringing in some feminine energy, and it's created for a balance. And that's where the healing begins. And Lisa, I always tell my clients and my practitioners that I train that emotion comes from your mama's nose. So you got your mama's nose or her ears or your dad's back end, whatever. But what came with that was a generation of emotion stuck in those cells, and now that's brought through, right? An ancestral impact. And as a full mesa shaman, I work with that all the time, and those buried generational, where did this start, or ancestral implications.
It's so, so true. And even just thinking about, what we've learned in this lifetime through observation, they say observation is our biggest education, don't they? And nothing can make, or no one can make you feel good or bad, only the thought we attach to it. So I know for me, 11, I think that's a good number, because for me, that tells me that I'm cared for and the angels are around me and the universe is around me and things are working for me. But I was talking to a client the other day and they said, I cannot unplug my phone if it's on an odd number. It has to be on an even number. So 11 for him was, no, it's a bad number. And I just thought, there's nothing that can make us feel good or bad, only the thought we attach to it. So I think, particularly when I'm working with clients, it's like, well, challenge your thinking. Why are you attaching maybe a negative connotation to this? And like you say, was it that from our ancestors? Is that ancestral healing that needs to take place? And it just opens up a whole different world of possibility, doesn't it?
It really does. And we're being called to heal because we're seeing even the epigenetics and all the science tied behind that, right? There's so much science and so many books. For the listeners, if you've not studied Dispenza and Lipton and Deepak, if you haven't looked at those key individuals, there's so much science out there. To take it even further, because I alluded earlier about, what do we do with this emotion that we're recognizing, wow, that's a trigger, that shirt's a trigger, that date's a trigger, that comment, wow, was a trigger, right? Alexander Lloyd has some awesome books, shameless plug, okay? Don't know the guy personally, shameless plug, that really gives you the tools to help with that emotional trigger and begin the healing. Whether you're using tapping is a great alternative option. You can use healing code and emotion codes and memory codes and all these codes going on out there, right? There's so many. If you're into shamanism or even clearing energy field using a pendulum, the point is there are tools, there are ways, and you can heal if you begin to recognize the need, the trigger.
Yeah. There's some wonderful tools you just shared there, and it's so true, isn't it? There's an abundance of tools available, and I like to be led by my intuition, and often people and things are put in front of me as and when I need them. So if any of our listeners are out there thinking, oh, I need to heal, just notice, just watch, just see who's in front of you, and reach out to those people to help you on your healing journey. And I'm just circling back to something you said earlier, Angie, about, the masculine and the feminine. And I think often my experience of the corporate world was, even a feminine in the corporate world, I had to really dial up my masculine energy. I couldn't bring that feminine energy in because it was seen as a weakness. And that's one of the things I'm working on changing in the corporate world in the UK, is to look at bringing in that feminine side and really looking at emotions both in male and females to help drive them to feel that emotional connection rather than to feel driven by the need to succeed. They're embracing and they're sitting with their feelings, and they're using that as fuel to fuel their, success in life, really. And rather than needing to be successful, they've got the feeling already, and it's tapping into those feelings and using those for fuel. And I just think that balance of the feminine and the masculine is really important, isn't it?
It is extremely important, as in corporate America as well. For 20 years, I had to really display that, as you call that, masculine energy, because if I came in the feminine, which we have, right? I'm a mother of 3 children. I have nurturing. I love being a mama. I'm so proud to be a mama. Well, when you bring that into the corporate world, you are viewed as weak. So it's this idea of badass in the boardroom. Well, why can't we be a badass in the boardroom with a little bit of love in there?
Yeah, with some feeling.
Right.
Yeah, I love it.
And really connect with what we're leading, what vision we're leading, what group or team we're leading. Because you can show feminine strength, right, without shoving masculine and energy into the whole. And it really ties back to the performance wheel. Really, it goes back to who's your driver, who's driving you. So to speak to what you said, Lisa, if our intuition is driving us, if our gut instinct, this is what I want to do in life, if that's what's driving us, that's totally different than an outside force. We call those encodements when we work in shamanism, the artificial encodements, which is what you get when you watch TV and you should be a size half and, whatever.
Should, could, would.
Right.
Yeah.
Someone shooting all over you, literally, right? Right. And then you have the natural encodements, which are those similar to epigenetics, where you have your family, well-meaning family, projecting their shoulda, coulda, wouldas on you, right? And so that's really the emotional trigger we're talking about. I can tell you, in my experience, that family dynamic is what drove me in corporate America.
Yeah. Wow. Well said, girl. I love that. Boom, you're on it. And what really struck me there was you talking about that drive and that intuition from within. That's a different driver, isn't it? That's your source, that's your flow, that's your passion, that's your energy. And often the external drivers are coming from that place of fear, not that internal place of love and passion and connectivity. And I think sometimes those two can get a bit confused, can't they? And it is, what's your driver? Is it love or is it fear?
I love that right there. Because wouldn't you agree that the majority of our emotional triggers are fear? Either an expectation hasn't been met, either we didn't communicate it or they flat didn't meet it. But there's this fear of lack of control, right? This fear of being out of control, this fear of I've got to push and shove and drag to get over here. Yes. And that's that masculine energy that we're talking about, where when you come from a purpose and a passion, and when you're aligned and you're listening to your heart, your soul, your spirit, then you flow and you look at the world totally different. I know you can relate.
Totally. And like one is lack and out of flow, and the other one is abundance and inflow, isn't it? And it's literally knowing when you're in those lanes. And if you're in the lack and driven and fear, you're in the wrong lane. Switch lanes and get back into your heart voice. And I guess that's sometimes what these emotional triggers are showing us, right? Is that we're in the wrong lane, we're out of flow. And that's okay. And like you say, there's some wonderful tools out there to heal us. But it's just a little tap on the shoulder to say, come on, we need to gently move you back into flow.
Right. And it goes back to acknowledging, and we're giving all the listeners permission to have emotional triggers. We're giving you permission to throw a fit like the 3-year-old and just let it out. Right. And then we're encouraging you, challenging you in a sense, to dig underneath, where is that truly coming from? Where's it really coming from? When you were 3, was it a generational piece? Like, where is that trauma that stayed in your body? No one's blaming. It's a situation.
Yes.
When the little boy took your toy when you were 4, let's be for real. No adult in the room thought you were going to be traumatized, right? I mean, come on. We really did it. As a mother, I did it. Let him have the toy. It's a ball. We'll get another one, right?
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, as part of our evolution, as part of our journey in this world we call life, that has stuck with us. And so recognizing, again, we're giving you permission to acknowledge it. And the way I teach it when I'm teaching shamanism is honor that trauma. I know it's rough. Hey, I've been raped. It's rough. I've been there. There are some traumas that you're like, seriously, chick, you want me to relive that? No, I want you to honor it. I want you to acknowledge it. And then I want us to clear it out of the body, replacing it with 100% pure white healing light and alignment with the universe and God.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen. And that's what we're being called to do right now, if we listen.
Thank you for sharing, Angie, part of your story. And it's giving, like you say, the listeners permission that healing is possible no matter what experiences you've experienced. It's honoring that experience and knowing that healing is possible if you dare to open the lid on it and take a look inside and go, okay, these are the feelings that are coming up. I can honor them and I can heal from them. And like you say, that white light, that's beautiful, isn't it? And when you were talking, I was just thinking about one of my emotional triggers as that little girl. I just remember my teacher saying to me, I must have been about 8, and we were singing in the school choir. And she said to me, Lisa, you can't sing, open your mouth. And oh my goodness, has that been filed away deep in my subconscious memory? And I just remember when I kind of was getting these emotional triggers when I was at university. And this is part of my healing journey. That's one of the things that I've had to open the box on and heal. My friends would say to me, we're going out tonight to karaoke, 99p, Red Bull and vodka. Do you want to come? And everyone's like, I'm a student. Of course I want to go. And I was like, no. I can't go out to karaoke night. And I hadn't realized where that emotional trigger had come from until I went on my own healing journey. I just knew that feeling was coming up inside me to say, I'm not going out tonight. And then when I didn't go out, I felt like I was missing out. So that emotional trigger really stole the joy out of my life. And that fear, I wasn't in that place of love and abundance and joy. I was in that place of fear and lack and scarcity. And that's what emotional triggers can be like, can't they? Is bringing up that feeling for you to then go, well, where did that come from? Oh, it came from my 8-year-old self. That's an opinion I no longer value, and I can move beyond that. So I then went and I thought, 1 to me, 0 to my past. I'm going to go and book a singing lesson. So I did exactly that. And yes, that the negative voice in my head was saying that's really scary and you can't do that. But it's acknowledging that in the moment and saying, yes, I can. It's okay. I'm safe. And honouring those feelings. And emotional triggers are around us all the time. I guess, sometimes we can't get away from them, but the more we embrace them and heal them, the less there are.
That's beautiful. I mean, what a beautiful way to open up to the listeners. And just, again, we're confirming we all have them. We all have them. This is an 8-year-old, right? Let's be for real. How did, you internalize that and it carried for how long?
Till I was like 32.
Right. And we don't think about that. And so we can't blame the teacher. The teacher was doing what the teacher does. And very possibly that experience was to show you your genius inside of you. You weren't listening to speak up and be who you are. And this was a way, and said you internalized it and it didn't open the path, right?
Yeah.
So really honoring that, and I have to give a shameless plug to everyone. If you have not heard Trina Brunk, so Trina, B-R-U-N-K, Brunk, she has a beautiful song called I Will. And it's on that basis of, I'm afraid to climb the mountain, so I turn out the light. I'm afraid of the dark, I turn out the light. I'm going to climb the mountain. I will do it. It came to mind as you were talking. And, I spent almost 2 years in an RV, everything in storage, really having that healing moment of myself. Went through a divorce, ended with a restraining order. The story goes on. But I needed to be me. Like I needed to come into my cocoon and say, where is this anger coming from? Where are these emotional triggers coming from? And that's why I really encourage everyone listening out there, find a practitioner, find a professional, grab a few books by Alexander Lloyd. I mean, it's a DIY, my friend. You can really start knocking this stuff out and really begin the healing journey and see how your life just opens up. You no longer are attracting the same crap every year or the same bad juju, right? You just start healing and you become a flower petal and it begins to open and you get in the flow. Like you said, Lisa, you just get in the flow. And when you're in the flow, you shine your genius upon the world, and the world is asking, they're praying for you right now. Yeah. Someone is praying for your genius. If you will just step through it and begin to heal so that you can shine it. Yes.
Beautiful. I just thought of, I put a post on social media earlier, and it said, don't try and fix people, just walk alongside them when they're ready to walk. And one of my previous clients messaged me today and said, I loved that. And I love the fact that you were there to walk alongside me. And I want to walk alongside others now and help them. And I just thought how beautiful that he's turned something that was quite traumatic in his life into something really positive. And we all have that ability to do that, if we're willing to face our emotional triggers and acknowledge them for what they're for and learn and grow and move past them. And one of the great books that I will plug, she is actually a friend of mine. She's my coach. She's an amazing lady, and she's really helped me on my healing journey. And it's a book called It's Not Your Fault by Elizabeth Ivory. And in there, it gives you permission to say, healing's possible, and it actually wasn't my fault in the first place, but this is how I can move on and move past it. And I guess books are brilliant. You've mentioned a few and some songs, and whatever helps. And like you say, reach out to a practitioner and just connect with someone, and you've got a beautiful journey ahead of you. Embrace it. It's not about the destination. It's about embracing the journey and just noticing and seeing your growth, like you say about growth and that petal opening up. I love that analogy. It's beautiful, Angie.
So awesome. Beautiful. So this was all about who's your driver. So again, it's about where are you in flow? Are you not in flow? Where's your emotional triggers? Where are they coming from? Digging underneath to find out really where they're coming from. And again, we're really encouraging you to get the tools and begin your healing journey. Because my friend, the world is opening up for us to truly heal and to make a difference in the new world that's here. And whatever your religious beliefs, non-religious beliefs, doesn't matter to me, because the reality is we are having a cosmic shift. You cannot deny it. And if you are, then you're living under a rock. We're having a cosmic shift that's forcing us to allow the cream to bubble to the top for you to begin your healing process and really shine your genius in the world. Again, it's your turn.
Yeah, it's your turn and it's your time. And I love your passion and energy, Angie. I mean, we could probably continue to talk for a long time. I'm just thinking of our listeners out there, because if anybody's thinking, I'd love to know more about this, or could you do an episode on that? I mean, they can go to the Alternative Health Tools website, find this episode, and there's the blue microphone. You can leave us a voice note or messages. And if there's anything you particularly wanted Angie and myself to cover, we'd be more than happy to explore those topics, because this is such a huge topic, isn't it, on the possibilities of healing and the tools available for healing. So if there's anything of specific interest, I'd invite our listeners to share those with us, and we can create some more content for them.
Oh, I would love. Yeah, that would be a blessing to us, because, I once was wounded, very wounded. And as we all still have growth to happen, I am not healed by any means, but I am able to manage those emotional triggers and get underneath and start healing them the moment that I recognize them. And I wish that upon everyone, to really be able to claim their genius and really begin the healing process, because it's a body, mind, spirit component. It's physical ailments, and I won't get off on that tangent. That could be another one.
We can do that one.
Exactly. They stem from an emotional thought. Nothing happens until you think, and when you think, something moves. And
it's
when
goosebumps,
moves,
isn't it? Like when someone says to me, that can't be possible, and I say, well, how do you get goosebumps when you hear some news? Your body's listening. Every cell in your body is eavesdropping to your thoughts. So be careful what you're thinking. And then they go, oh, yeah, Goosebumps.
Right,
Is that what you
right.
call them in the US? Is
Yes,
it goosebumps?
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I have a friend that calls it chicken skin, but I don't like that visual.
Wow. No, I don't like that visual. We'll go with goosebumps.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So awesome. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening. Thanks, Lisa, for co-hosting with me. It's been a pleasure. You'll get to hear more from us. Again, leave us feedback. We'd love to be able to cater and really support you on your journey through this world in any way that we possibly can. Any last words, Miss Lisa?
Oh, Angie, I just want to thank you, your energy and abundance. And I think the last thing I want to leave with our listeners is to know that healing is possible. You know, I sit here and I may look vibrant and like I've got it all together, and life still happens to me. But I was the wounded person. You talked about being the wounded person, and I've put the work in to start my healing journey. Well, start my healing journey. I'm well onto my healing journey, but we know that healing journey can still keep evolving on layers and layers and layers and levels and levels and levels. Mm-hmm. And I just want people to know that wherever they are in their healing journey, that don't compare yourself to others. It's your journey, it's your path, and just walk that in your time, at your pace, and find people to walk with you on it.
That's beautiful. I confirm that. Yes, that's beautiful. So until we get to see you again on another episode, God bless. And as always, for me, make it an epic day.
Yay! Take care, everyone.